I have a very interesting talk for you today. We will be talking about the hydrogen applications in practice with real CO2 savings in the steel industry. Together with BD Manager Gunnar Kruckenberg and Director of Sales Dr. Emanuel Scheffknecht from Sauer Compressors Group. Please enter the stage. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Lars.
Hi.
Thank you.
Please have a seat. So, welcome back. I think this is not your first rodeo here, is it?
No, it's the second time participating in this exhibition and be here on the stage. Thank you very much for the invitation.
You're welcome. So, what is it you guys do at Sauer? Can you please elaborate?
I'm responsible for the German market, representing HAUG and Sauer, our two brands for gas compressors. So, Sauer Compressor Group has a wide portfolio of gas compressors. And here we are focusing today on the hydrogen market. And we are happy to be back again.
Thank you. And what about you, Emanuel? What's your job at Sauer?
Well, I'm responsible for the HAUG part of the equation. So the two brands, as my colleague just mentioned, that we have are Sauer and HAUG. Sauer compressors are oil lubricated, while the HAUG compressors are oil-free and dry running. And my job and my responsibility is to deal with the entire customer-facing process, so everything that's related to customer inquiries, sales, marketing, product management, after sales, everything that is dealing with the customer, their wishes, their problems, their issues. That's sort of my responsibility of me and my team.
Great. So if anyone wants to buy your compressors, they should find you.
Yes, please do.
That's very good to know. So Gunnar, can you tell me a little bit more about the origin? Where does Sauer and HAUG come from, and how did you get into the hydrogen space?
Sauer Compressors has a long history of creating piston compressors. Our origin are starting air compressors for the marine and naval applications, and for big starting compressors in power plants. But we have since many years a wide industry application range for huge variation of gases to compress. Because Sauer was always keen in providing durable and long-lasting solutions to their customers. And HAUG was integrated a few years in our portfolio and in our brand, and we are now happy that we can face not just oil-lubricated solutions, but also oil-free solutions.
Okay, and what's then the benefit of these oil-free solutions? Maybe you can explain this, Emanuel.
Well, the oil-free compressor gives you the absolute security that any kind of gas that you're trying to compress and work with, not just hydrogen, because HAUG has a long history of working with any kind of industrial gas. Any kind of gas you're processing will be entirely free of contamination, because there's no oil, there's nothing inside the compressor that could possibly contaminate the gas or the material that you're trying to compress and work with. That's the main, it's about safety, pretty much.
Makes sense. So it makes sure that your clean hydrogen stays clean in the system.
Exactly.
Very good. And what kind of compressors? I mean, you're not the only compressor manufacturer here at the fair, but what's the difference between you and some of the other players here?
So we are facing, or our products are for small and middle-sized applications suitable. Which means we start around about 5 to 7 cubic meters and can face up to, with HAUG product line, they are small and middle size, and for bigger applications up to 1,000, 1,300 cubic meters per hour, depending on suction pressure and final pressure. And there's a huge variation we see in the market of the applications. Depending on the source of the hydrogen, you need different or more stages. For example, you have atmospheric supply sources for hydrogen with atmospheric pressure, or we have even with a higher suction pressure for us. And totally different applications in the end.
Right, and for those of us who are not that deep into the technicalities of the compressors, what kind of applications are we looking at? Are we looking at refueling stations? Or are we looking at the compressors within a vehicle? What are the compressors that you supply to the market?
Normally our customers facing small microgrids or individual located applications, which can be for G3 or G5 telecommunication, independent power sources. For independent power sources are normally the application. It can be for cooling, for pharmaceutical applications, can be for home or for like big application if you have housing or facilities for home grids. We have in the metal industry thermal application, so not just, especially for the HAUG application, they use to replace the hydrogen, to replace gases, natural gas often, and there in this application the purity is not needed, like for example if you're facing heavy mobility, for example.
Right, thank you. So I'd also like to invite the people here in the audience to ask questions. So please, if you have any questions, raise your hand and I will make sure to come to you with the microphone to get it answered. But in the meantime, do you also develop all of these compressors yourself? How does that work? What do you do the R&D? Do you do the manufacturing? What's the status?
Yes, HAUG and Sauer have a very deep development and production process. We developed the complete product by ourselves. The production is for Sauer, located in north of Germany, in Kiel, and for HAUG in Switzerland, in St. Gallen.
And so you have all of this R&D. Are you also trying to commercialize the compressors, to standardize, to bring it to the market? What's the status there? Maybe you can elaborate, Emanuel.
Yeah, well, that is one of the sort of differences between the Sauer product line and the HAUG product line. The Sauer products, based on the history, are more standardized. They can still be configured to customer demand, but they're more in an industrialized number, while HAUG as a brand and as a company has a very strong history in doing project business. So typically customers come to HAUG if they're looking for a very specific compressor solution for a very specific process which they have. So we have a long history of working with universities with sort of experimental indications applications. But for the hydrogen market in general, we are realizing that there are specific inquiries which are similar in nature. So yes, we are hoping that even though we can build and we can develop one-off solutions for experimental projects or experimental applications, we are hoping that a sort of a standard, a market standard, can be established in working and cooperating with OEM manufacturers and hopefully establish a product for the market which we can sell in larger numbers than just the one-off project builds.
Right, so if I understand it correctly, at HAUG you make compressors on a case-by-case basis, specifically to the spec that the customer demands, while at Sauer you're trying to make a more general product that you can have a series, that you can of course then, I guess, lower the cost and try to get some economies of scale. What are the biggest challenges that you're facing in trying to get this sort of series compressor to take off?
Big challenges are that there are no common standards in the moment in the market. We have, or we see, long process from the first idea or from the first approach to us till the final go comes from the customer or even from the government side that they are allowed to build the application. We can provide products, so the single compressor, the compressor with a control, or even with a cabinet, or with more accessories. But the customers are there is no even customer level or customer demand. It's always individual what we in the moment see in the market. But we
Right,
have the
so-
first successes that we realize some relationship to OEM clients who bring this in the first running steps of a repeating customer process.
Yeah, so if I understand it correctly, customer A asks for 10 bar, customer B wants 20 bar hydrogen, customer C wants
300
25,
bar.
yeah, so-
Then we have customers who has even variations in their sources of hydrogen. We have OEM applications where we have customers who are only capable of building complete solutions. So from the hydrolyzer to the pipings to the customer demand. But they are free in their source of hydrogen. And we have to also follow them. And then we have customers who have a specific source of hydrogen and looking for a solution for the compression and facing variation of customer demands.
Right, so just like we have when you plug in your phone or whatever device into the grid, there always is, what is it, 230 volts coming out at 50 hertz. You want this as well with hydrogen, where you have these standards. So what do you think of the hydrogen backbone? Do you think this will also bring more of this standardization? How are you looking at this? Is this an interesting business for you as well, to have the full hydrogen grid?
A full hydrogen grid would be a very good solution or target for, especially when you have multiple input sources. There will be the gigawatt application, maybe in the beginning, but there will be a lot of localized or local input applications which we can really, where we can provide good solutions for. But we see a much bigger market also in the independent off-grid solutions.
So then the islanded systems, I
Yeah.
think they're often called, where you have the hydrogen production, storage, and maybe reconversion to
Correct.
back to electricity. Super interesting. And also, I think a market that's developing very rapidly for hydrogen is the market where hydrogen is a feedstock. So for instance, the industries where ammonia is produced, methanol, etc. Are these also markets that you are looking at and that you're exploring?
Yes, of course. Our core competence is to build the compressors for industrial applications. So what we are seeing, or we perceive, never know if it's entirely true, but we perceive in hydrogen is a market where there are a lot of very smart people in a lot of very young companies with a lot of bright ideas.
Yeah.
And at this point, I don't really see that many proven business concepts. So there are a lot of people who have an idea on how to produce hydrogen, and I think there is sort of a disconnect at this point in the market where the hydrogen is produced and what will you actually do and how can you monetize the hydrogen that you've been producing. So the more demand for the hydrogen that is being produced with all the electrolyzers and all the green tech that is pushing into the market, so the more demand is created from an industrial side, the more applications there will be, the more business cases there will be, and of course that opens up new markets for us. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I find this very fascinating always, that in hydrogen you have this chicken and egg problem that everybody talks about. So what do you think is the way to solve this? How can we go about really creating these value chains and making sure that hydrogen really takes off? For instance, what does partnering play a role in this?
Yeah, this is a global issue, actually. I think the entire hydrogen market understands that we have to move away from fossil fuels. We have to find a way to have green energy, renewable energy, or energy that is sort of carbon neutral, at least in the way it's produced. So government subsidies is something. I think it would have to be a combination on a high political level to subsidize ideas, subsidize new projects, subsidize new products, and at the same time add additional pricing to the existing energies that are being consumed. But I understand this is a highly politically diverse topic because different parties push different agendas, and if you increase the price for fossil fuels or fossil energy, which is still the main energy that's being consumed, you have to find a way to balance it out for the average person to be able to afford the new sort of energy. We have to reach a point where green energy, which should automatically be cheaper because the sun is free and the wind is free, where green energy is cheaper than fossil fuels. And to get to that point, you have to have the combination of both subsidies and increased pricing or taxation on the other kind of energy.
Right, and I think it's also important that we work together and we make sure that we have this full value chain approach where we not only look at just, I think even you guys as a compressor company, you can't not take into account the upstream and the downstream parts of the value chain.
We cannot rely on. Last year we have seen a lot of, when I compare to this year, a lot of application where we had the early adopters, the believers, a lot of with money equipped, but this is not a sustainable business case. So as soon as we are facing real sustainable applications which are becoming affordable for the people or for the industry, middle-sized industry, for example, in the steel application when they want to replace gas with hydrogen, and for the home market or for microgrids, that they become independent from normal energy grids. And we, with not just having a demonstrator, yes, we can create a demonstrator, but we are a machine company.
Right.
We want to come to repeating processes or repeating applications. And with these repeating applications, we can create benefits for the customers because the process will get, or the product will become lower in price.
Yeah, we need to make hydrogen more affordable, I think, and standardization of these processes is part of that.
Yeah.
So we already have come to the end. I would like to thank you. For those of you who are very interested in these lovely compressors from HAUG and Sauer, please visit these gentlemen at booth D431.